Everybody smiles in the same language. A smile, let your light come shining through.
Welcome to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. I'm Sandra M., coming to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. I interview people from all parts of the world about what happiness means to them. What are they in love with? In each episode, we'll give you a key to happiness to include in your life. And of course, we'll play a happy tune from my live Celebrate Happiness Roadshow.
A smile doesn't cost you anything. But there's so much good.
Welcome to the second season of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And don't forget to catch up on any episodes from season 1 you might have missed. Today we're talking with Maggie Lambe. Having been raised in Florida on a farm, she migrated west 20 years ago and is currently living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She has 2 lovely adult daughters. Not long ago, she began her new life as a single woman, and the difficulty of adjusting to being single led her to create the very popular Santa Fe singles group, iMeet, Mingle, and Match. Maggie feels that there is something incredibly powerful about meeting face-to-face in a world that is becoming increasingly digital. She says, you're not just finding potential partners or friends, you're also building richer, more fulfilling connections that improve your overall health and happiness. It's about the connections you make in life. Your connections bring you so much joy, social health, and well-being. Welcome, Maggie, to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. I am so excited to talk with you about what makes you happy and why is it so important in your life?
Well, my life has changed recently by my singles group that I started about a year ago. And what's so amazing and what's created so much happiness in my life is when you help others, in return, it helps me. Your life becomes so much more enriched and meaningful, seeing the difference that you're making in other people's lives through my singles group. And when we look back at life, it's really going to be about the connections that we have with others that will be the most meaningful aspects of your life. It won't be the materialistic aspects. It will be the connections.
Wow, that's fascinating. So when you're talking about, I do realize that helping others really helps us to get out of ourselves, basically, and it gives you so much joy because you see smiles on people's face, you see them grow. Is this something that you have experienced in terms of helping others in the singles group? Do you have a story you might want to relate?
Well, I have so many wonderful stories, and it's such a beautiful thing to have a social where you're bringing people together in the singles community here in Santa Fe, singles coming from as far as Turkey, Los Alamos, Taos, and there is such a need for in-person connections. The way technology is, it's such an artificial way to connect, and plus with technology, just in general, it's hard to connect. In fact, our society has become more disconnected. So to bring people together in a space where there's conversation, there's laughter, there's smiles, they're creating connections that will change their life. You know, I have my singles, every time we get together, I get so much gratitude, appreciation, and that is really why I do what I do, because I can see the difference I'm making in people's lives, the connections, the friendships. I mean, I also have singles that are dating, but it's something that we need. Social connections are so important as just everyday exercise, but it's often overlooked because the connections are mainly focused on physical and mental, not social. And that's just as important. So we do really need to focus on our well-being. But there's so many success stories. People are connecting after they leave my socials. They're getting together for coffee. They're going for hikes. They're going out on dates, girlfriends, guy friends. And my group is all about connections. And whatever pathway that creates is a beautiful thing.
So I understand that you have all age ranges. And so you have them from the 20s up to 60 plus. Do you notice that certain groups have more need than others? Like, is it the young people that have trouble connecting necessarily? I mean,
yeah, yes. For challenging for the younger generation. And when I guess primarily 20s, not some, maybe a little bit 30s, but the 20s seem to have, they don't really know how to communicate like my older singles do. So most of their events for like 20s and 30s are very structured, social, where I create activities to help them connect to sort of break that ice.
Interesting. And so you feel like the older people, like, okay, now we're going to 40s and 50s and 60 plus, and so you feel that they have more skills around the social connections?
Well, the older generation didn't grow up, with the technology that our younger generation is. So, you had more face-to-face conversations. I mean, we didn't have texting or anything like that. So we are more inclined to have more of a comfort when it comes to discussion in a face-to-face setting. But I do think in general, our whole society, all ages, are becoming less social because of technology. Now, there's a lot of great things about technology because I use it for people to find my social group. So I'm very grateful for that. But the trend is getting away from options through social media and technology and connecting really kind of the old-fashioned way of meeting people in person because, I mean, and they're local. If you look at online options, for example, online dating, you don't sometimes know who you're talking to. And a lot of times these connections are people that live far away and really who has time for that and create connections locally.
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
Now, I'm fascinated by what you're saying because it just seems to me that we need to learn to open up. And so if we're face-to-face, it's easier to open up with another person because you can see their body language and you feel their energy. And it's easier just to find the humanity in the other person. And I'm just wondering, I know that you have large groups there, but people do meet one-on-one, basically. You're talking to a person, then you move and talk to another person. So I'd love to know what your feelings are about just how hard it is for people to open up. And you said you do structure things, activities for the younger group because they're not used to this?
Well, so because my large monthly social has gotten so large, and it usually averages between 100 to 125 singles, it's challenging to have structure during those socials. Because of that, a number of months ago, I started creating smaller group socials, and it's called Maggie's Small Group Social, which usually is between 20 to 30 singles. It's a great way to get to know singles in a more in-depth, meaningful way. I create structured activities for the small group socials, which is a great way to really connect. And when you leave that social, which is usually about 2 hours, you really feel like that you know the singles that you were connected with at that night. Then what makes it so great is when you go to my large group social, you're already establishing those connections. But it does usually take a couple of months for you to really feel like you're starting to connect. A very meaningful comment that one of my singles told me recently that has just really resonated with me is that they started going to my socials, and after a couple socials they attended, they said, "Maggie, you've created a family for me." And that is really what I'm trying to create, where we feel like we're part of a group, that we're there for each other, like family, close friends. A lot of times it can be a lot more meaningful than sometimes families. What's also interesting about my group is the diversity and the background, the occupation, their life journey, their life experiences, and what they bring to the mix of my singles. I mean, I am amazed every day when I get to know my singles, what they share with not just me, but with each other. And it's such an important way of living. And I have to say, when I started this singles group a little over a year ago, it was through the frustrations of trying to adjust to a new way of life after 30 years of being married. And I wanted to make single girlfriends. How do you meet men? And the bumpy journey and the frustrations led me to create this singles group. This, I get so much gratitude from my singles, but the reality is they have changed my life tremendously in the amount of love that I feel every time I get together with my singles, and just having one core connection. We're all single, so that whenever you go out, we're all single. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's hard to navigate the world of exploring this, the town that you live in, well, who's single, who's not. But when you come to my social, everyone's single. So it's an immediate connection. So that brings us together.
Yes. I can hear the passion you have for this in your voice, which is unbelievable, because not everybody would just say, look, I'm frustrated in I need more new girlfriends. How do I meet them? And okay, I'm going to go out and start a singles group. Not everybody would do that. So I'm thinking to myself, you've got such a passion for this. And where is your expertise? Where's your background? I mean, how did you decide to do it? I mean, do you have you been doing events like this all your life? Was this a profession you had? What's your background on this?
Well, so not really. I mean, I do have my own business. It's a concierge business where I'm a personal assistant. So I'm really good at organization skills, communication. But, I don't know. I mean, I just, when I went into this and I was trying to figure out, well, how can I fix this for myself in the beginning, stages of being divorced and trying to, I don't know, which is so overwhelming. And I thought, well, I've got to fix this problem for me. And so I thought, I'm going to create a social group for just singles, my first one was 15 singles showed up. And then obviously from there, I now have close to 1,200 single members of my group. But what happened, there was a transformation after the first month or two where, and I was only doing one social a month, where now I'm doing probably 8, almost 2 socials every week. But the transformation happened when I saw the change that I was creating for my singles. And it was no longer focused on me. It was focused on helping others. There's some put on that as far as how that makes you feel. And I've never felt anything so amazing as what I get in return by helping others. It's something that everyone should do. And you also, I think, as you get older, you reflect on your life and, what footprint leave and how can I make a difference in other people's lives. And I really feel like I've found that special calling for me. And it's just a wonderful, fulfilling part of my life right now.
It just sounds to me, it just makes you happy, right? It gives you a purpose. I do think that people really need to have a purpose in life, especially as we get older. And one of my purposes is, and the reason I do this podcast, is to spread the idea that happiness is an inside job. You sort of have to look into yourself and say, what makes me happy? How can I help others? I do know that scientifically people say, well, scientists, namely Bruce Lipton, who is somebody that I follow, say that having loving thoughts, helping others to help them be happy with their own lives, and being grateful for what you have changes your entire perspective. It opens up your heart, and it gives you happiness within your own being. And so I just think that you're doing such a fabulous, I know you're not preaching the happiness to people, but you did mention that you're just amazed at what various things that people say. And and the diversity within your group. And I would love it if you could share some of the things that people say to you that, why they feel so good. Why do they keep coming back? And it's not just making the connections, but what is the joy they feel within inside themselves? Do they feel healthier? They're less depressed as people. Do you have anything that you'd like to share with us around what these people, your singles, as you put it, and I love the way you say, my singles, right? It sounds sort of like you're the mother of the singles, which is fantastic.
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
I do feel that connection, that sort of like the mother hen taking care of my singles, because each and every person that's a part of my group is important. Their voice is important, who they are as a person. And I just want my singles to connect, because I know from personal experience that these connections are so vital for your mental health, for your overall well-being health. And I'm doing everything I can, one single at a time, to keep their life enriched and happy. And, my singles, they share people that they're seeing at a dating level. Again, I'm all about connections, but it goes many different ways. One single told me recently she was hiking with some friends, and she goes, "Oh, by the way, Maggie, these are friends I met at your social." People are going out. I mean, I have, a core group of girlfriends that if I ever needed anything, they would be on my doorstep in a minute. And it's so nice to have love in your world, because, love starts with friendship, and it just turns into something so beautiful. I mean, it's all about happiness. When you have people that care about you, that love you, and there's many different levels of love, then that creates happiness in your life. You feel like there's more of a purpose. You have a better appreciation of life. I mean, I for everything in my life, even the small things. I mean, just the every day of waking up, feeling having a purpose, exercise, my independence, my health, my family. We sometimes take these for granted, but I think in order to really experience the true happiness of life, you have to have the basic appreciation of things that we take for granted every day. And while I'm healthy and able to do things, I need to focus on how I can channel my happiness in helping others, because there's nothing greater than that. And my singles, when I hear their stories every single time we get together, that's what keeps me going, because I'm making a difference in their lives by connecting them through the connections of my social group.
That's so beautifully stated. When you say love is in your world, it brings more love in your world, your own personal world, and in the world at large with all the singles, your singles, right? And then that radiates out to they take that love and they bring it into their families, they bring it into their friends. And so I do really think that love is like the glue that keeps everybody going, really. And you said you have a group of girlfriends that if you needed anything, they'd be on your doorstep. And I'm wondering your thoughts on this. I know that women find it a little more easy to bond with each other and be on the doorstep. In your experience with the men who come, the single men who come, what is happening with their bonding with each other? Have you any thoughts on that?
Well, I have made some amazing male friends that I hang out with at a friendship level, and that is as meaningful for me as a girlfriend friendship, because I feel like we can learn so much from the man's perspective. So it's important then that we have a diversity of friendships, not just focused on women, but gosh, my women in my group is amazing. Women are very social creatures. Yes. We love connection. We love conversation. I mean, there's some men that do a great job just as much as women do. It is more difficult, for men to bond with men. I mean, that with any type of connection in our world. So obviously they have more challenges, but I mean, I have men that tell me that they connect better with women, just because we're open than men are.
So how about this? How many men, I imagine you keep a certain amount of measurements going in terms of your groups. How many men come back and keep coming back? And do they say that they're finding male friendships? Because I do know that we went through a period where men's groups were starting, they were forming men's groups and discussing men's issues and that kind of thing. And it was a more focused type of reality, but this is a social reality. And so I'm wondering if you find that men are making friendships with other men and letting you know that, or if you're observing that necessarily. So in a social context, are they coming back more often? Are they making friendships? Because as you just said, women do this almost naturally, right? They sort of crave this.
Yeah, I mean, men are not as vocal about their personal life as women are. So, there's more of that happening that I might not be aware of. There are men making connections with other men. I mean, they find common interests. They're skiers or hikers. And I do know that there are connections like that happening. They don't seem to work as hard in doing outside connections as much as women do. But connections are happening, all the time. It's my population obviously is at a lower percentage. I'm averaging about 38% men to women, which is actually a higher number than most groups. So it's obviously there's less men for men to connect with. I think probably they're connecting more with women. But, it varies. I mean, I'm connecting with both. When you come to my social, it's important that you are open to any type of connection. I do have singles that attend, and they're only looking for one thing, a partnership. You will most likely be disappointed coming to my socials if you are focused on one thing. Your heart needs to be open to whatever possibility is out there, because we all have connections. So listen mind when you come to my socials, because when you do, you'll receive so much more love that way.
I think this has been a fabulous conversation, and I'm glad to hear that, as you say, there's more to it than just looking for a partner, this kind of thing. And so many of the things that you have said today, so many of your thoughts, I think so many of our single people and even our married people, because married people know a lot of single people and so forth and so on. And I just think it's wonderful to have a group. As you said, we're all single here, right? So we have that commonality. I'm thinking we're coming to the end of our conversation, and I was wondering if you have any thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with.
Of course. My goal is to bring more love and happiness into our single world, connecting my singles to have a happier and healthier life through the social connections I create. Because it only takes one connection, and that one connection can change your life.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast, Maggie.
Thank you, Sandra. It was great.
Weekly Keys to Happiness, number 15. Get into nature. Spending 30 minutes or more a week in green spaces can help lower blood pressure and tendencies to depression. Your green space could be your neighborhood park, your own backyard, or a rooftop garden. Anywhere you can appreciate some nature and fresh air. Better yet, add some outdoor exercise for an extra happiness benefit.
Newsflash. Please sign up for your copy of our Keys to Happiness at sandramcknight.com. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And if you've enjoyed the conversation, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family. Before we go, I'd like to thank today's guest, Maggie Lambe, for sharing her happiness story. And to share your happiness story on the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast, send an email to sandra@sandramcknight.com.
Turn your smile on, you can't wrong. You'll find that love is all around. Follow your bliss, no one is against you.